Somebody asked in the chat earlier, any concerns about the defense after this game? I wouldn't. I mean, I just think what you saw is what they are. Like you don't even say. I remember, not to bring up Saban again, but he said this a few years ago. Like the days of 13-10 college football games are over, right? Defensive coaches have offenses in college. It's why you need an offense in the NFL. I think their defense is shown to be pretty opportunistic. Like if you play 4 quarters of both teams throwing the football, they're going to make a few plays on your quarterback, right? If you give them 4 quarters to do it, which they did that today. But I also think what the secondary, it's just these things are going to, against the best receivers, they're going to give up some points and some big plays. It's just going to happen.
Well, I don't even think it's just the best receivers. It's probably the best coordinators as well, right? Like I would say this year, we talked a lot about Geno's numbers. Shane Waldron's probably pretty fucking good at his job, because there were points and times in this game where they were like doing wildcat stuff. I was like, this is a pretty high level operation. They ran one play on 3rd and 5. They ran like this bunch set. The Niners kind of moved off, and I'm like, they're just going to run like a quick little curl to lock it in the middle of the other 2 guys, and they did. Easy first down. I just think Shane Waldron's good at his job. Who are you going to play next week, potentially? Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, let's just assume you play Kevin O'Connell. Then the following week, Shane Steichen, who's interviewing for coaching jobs. He calls plays now. Sirianni doesn't. Sirianni's got this great like CEO gig, even though he's a 38-year-old coach. Bizarre deal, but it's working.
It was Howie's idea.
Yeah, kind of his idea, because last year they sucked, and then they just went to this other guy, and ever since Jalen Hurts has become a star. Yeah. And then obviously, or Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, you just get to the college football playoffs, the conference championship games. You are playing not just the best players, but typically the best scheme guys, right? And like you said about Saban, the sport's kind of offensive now. So the best teams are usually going to have dynamic offensive minds and dynamic offensive players. And the one thing the 49ers just do not have, Ward is a really good player. And for what they needed, he's been phenomenal. I wouldn't consider Ward, some 6-time Pro Bowler, right? He's not Richard Sherman in his prime. He's not Revis. He's not Patrick Peterson when he was really sweet when he was young. He's just a really good player. And for the Niners, that's really important. But you can throw on these guys. And Lenore, God love him, he's doing a great job. But he's like an average, you could argue slightly above average NFL corner. Well, what is like a starting NFL corner who's above average? He's going to give up some big plays.
He didn't give
up. It's like Deion Sanders and Revis, everyone gets smoked.
Yeah.
And that was back in the day where it's like every other team had a sweet guy. I would say most teams have. How many teams in the playoffs don't have a sweet guy? Like the Giants? That's probably it. Maybe the Jags. You look around like Brady, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, right? The Seahawks. If the Lions had made it, they got a couple dudes. It's like these teams.
Look at the Niners.
The Niners. You're facing just offensive weaponry, it's just hard. Defense is harder to begin with because you don't know the play. They do, right? It's a difficult thing to do. It's why so many coaches like, just play defense, man. There's a ton of money. There aren't as many of you. Most like, I want to score touchdowns. But the guys that do go on, ask Ward when his career's over. And you look up, you're like, damn, he made $75 million. Because Ward's probably got another contract in him, right, if he stays healthy.
Well, that quote you referenced the other day of the Lions GM said if you change quarterbacks, it's easier to downgrade than to upgrade.
Yeah.
If you said like Mooney Ward, not a shutdown corner, get somebody else. Odds are, what are the odds you downgrade? 90% chance?
Well, look at last year. The Niners, 90. I mean, how could you upgrade? I don't think you could.
Yeah, I mean, you get like in the draft, but you have to draft pretty high. You need And
even the Niners, like to get Lenore, they like just start drafting dudes and they just kind of let the cream go.
Yeah.
And last year it's like, oh, maybe we got Ambry Thomas, and then Lenore passes him. And does Lenore have a 10-year NFL career? I don't know. If you tell me Lenore just has like 3 solid years, it's believable.
I think I would say chances are high. I think he's more likely a 10-year career than a 3-year career.
I would too. I don't know much about the guy, which I would guess if he's a 49er, he's got a pretty high level guy, hardworking, right? Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
If they like you, like look at the guys they like. You see at the end of the game who Lynch was talking to, Hufanga.
You see Danny Gray made a tackle on special teams?
I did not.
Punt, like he came down and made the play on.
Oh
punt,
yeah.
He was the first guy there and made the play. They're like, I'm like 6. The hell is 6?
They clearly hype up Ray, I think, in the production meetings, because even Moose was like, they've been saying Ray's about to break one. I think that he's just one of those guys that I can imagine, early on in the season, you're like, what do we got here? And by the end of the season, like, God, I don't remember doing a 180 on a role player. Just like, I feel very comfortable, even on a punt when it was raining, like he can catch it. I feel pretty good about him. Yeah. I don't know if I'm as close to like Kyle and the people telling the broadcast crew is like he's close to breaking one, but I do feel good about him being your starting punt return for a team trying to make the Super Bowl.
How about when Ayuk had a catch and they go to the replay and Moose is like, they got Danny Gray here on the outside. He's going deep and clearing it out. Like, what, they're running with Danny Gray? What on film has told them to do that? But obviously, I mean, he played in a playoff game today. So they clearly we talked to John Lynch at camp and he told us they liked him, but they clearly like him enough that he's active. They respect him as a special teamer, right? I would say it's a pretty good sign for him that he's not just buried. Like Ambry Thomas, well, I guess he's hurt, but not active. But I'd say it's a pretty good sign for Danny Gray that he dressed for the playoffs and played.
Agreed. Well, like, it's always funny seeing Jimmy Garoppolo inactive. Like Ty Davis Price. Clearly, like, he's well down the depth chart. Right, it takes injuries, it takes weird things happening for him to get stacked position, but it's very difficult. Drake Jackson now, a couple straight games, has not dressed. Ultimately, is not going to matter this year, but when someone tagged us in their list of free agents like Ebukam, who clearly is an impactful guy for them, right? And if you're going to rotate some of these defensive linemen, as they have now a couple years running, I would say one thing, big picture, they'll talk about this offseason, we need a big offseason from Drake Jackson. We need him to become, at minimum, a solid rotation guy. He's too talented not to. Rookie year, tough, good team, no issue. But wouldn't you imagine that they're going to be all over Drake Jackson this offseason to like take a fucking get focused?
Yeah, who's a free agent too.
Yeah, so you're going to lose both those two guys, potentially. 94 and 56. I look up 94 and 56 play a shitload.
And you're losing you're losing a linebacker, Al Shire probably.
Yeah, I think he's gone. Which, it's kind of nice to have him because Greenlaw, God love him, but he does kind of go down a lot. He came back today.
I did think the time he went down today, I think it was one of those. He's hurt. He realizes I'm putting my defense at a disadvantage if I try to get off the field now. It's a free one to just go down and then walk off the field once they stop the game. I did wonder if that's what was going on there. Your team's at a disadvantage. They got a sub as you limp off the field.